This is Business Decoded Podcast with Ronnie Spellman. An informal chats with top business moguls as they share their stories of failure and success in a fun and relaxed way. Get entertained, educated, and unlock the secrets to success.
Welcome to the Business Decoded Podcast with Ronnie Spellman. I'm here with the guru in AI, David Cobbs. David, welcome to the program.
Glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
We have a mutual friend, Dan Senawa, and he says, Ronnie, you got to talk to Dave.
Okay.
Dave is like, he knows everything there is to know. You're described as internationally renowned as a futurist, right? So you're helping to predict the world when it comes to AI. So you're the co-founder and CEO of Worlds. But I wanted just to, I don't usually read people's bio, but you have such a unique position in what you're doing. And AI is the topic of every conversation
right now
that's being discussed in the marketplace, in the business community. So I'm going to read some of it if you can indulge me for a moment. But it says that you're known internationally as a futurist, technologist, and visionary on the role that emerging technologies will play in transforming markets and the world. Dave has founded and sold 2 technology companies that pioneered the use of machine learning and artificial intelligence in hundreds of companies around the world. Yep. And I've heard you talk, and what you've done is amazing. You've over 2 decades, you have experience in pioneering advancements in artificial intelligence and other technologies. One of your earlier companies was BrainSpace that created one of the world's first semantic search engine using AI and latent semantic analysis to connect concepts and ideas across large document sets.
That's right.
Really cool. And then your first company was Ingenium Corporation, where you led the adoption of the company's conceptual search platform at the Pentagon, CIA, FBI, the DoD's defense messaging system, and hundreds of other companies around the globe. You sold that company to Marsh McLennan.
Yes.
And your new company is Rolls.
That's right.
How'd you come up with the name Rolls?
It's funny. It kind of fell in our lap, and we were thinking about what are we doing? Well, we're helping people kind of create their physical worlds and as digital worlds,
Right.
And we said, well, worlds can't be available. We looked it up, and it was owned by someone that was just kind of sitting on it, and so we kind of sent him a letter. We got the trademark for it and just kind of said, hey, and so anyway, it's a perfect name for what we do.
He didn't overcharge you though. You don't have to say what it is, but
no, we weren't overcharged.
Okay. I know Apple,
but we don't have the .com. That was overcharged for IO, worlds.io. So.
The Apple for Apple computers was taken as his own, I think, by the Beatles, right? Back in the day.
That's right. Yeah.
Right. So they had to negotiate with them to determine who could have the rights to Apple.
This wasn't quite that fun.
But I had the same thought. World has to be taken.
Yeah,
right? Like who doesn't have it? And I think you're around during the .com era.
Yeah.
I think there were people just buying any common name that they could find.
Oh yeah.
So that when the companies came to them seeking their domain that should be with their company, they could charge them a pretty penny.
Yes.
To get the domain set up. So you grew up in Texas.
I did.
Right?
Yeah, here in Dallas actually.
In Dallas, you went to UNT.
Yep.
Which is a great institution. And they even have a great Division I football team.
Yeah, and I tell you, that school is just, it's going gangbusters now. Now they have College of Machine Learning. And I'm on the board up there, and just really, really happy. Harrison's done just an incredible job.
Yeah, I love it. So before we talk about what World does, how did you get started in this space that became it's funny, I was talking to a good friend of mine who was an early investor in Dell. And my other friends describe him as a venture capital guy or private equity guy before it had a name. So I suspect you were AI before it had a name.
Yeah,
I guess.
It's funny, in college I was a frustrated business major, so I didn't really like what I thought it was okay, but. There has to be more, and I started dropping in on classes, so I literally I walked into a class called industrial anthropology, and I ended up going to the class every day, even though I wasn't in the class. And the professor kind of said, "Who the hell are you?" And one day I said, "Well, I'm Dave Cobbs." She said, "I don't see my role." Well, I'm not in the class. She goes, "Why are you here?" I said, "It's interesting." And so I've always kind of had this curiosity, that's led me kind of really to every new stage in my life.
Did you stay the entire session in that class the whole semester?
Yeah, I took the tests and everything.
Yeah. Oh, that's great.
I couldn't get graded because I wasn't in the class, but it was fun.
It's so, not to diverge there, but that is the beauty of being on a college campus. They don't check you in at the door.
Yeah.
You can sit in on any class and learn if you have an interest. And I've done the same thing. I took a class on homeopathy.
Interesting.
Homeopathic medicine in college, and it was a graduate level class. I was an undergrad, but I just wanted to understand it. Like, why not? It's free to me to go to. Yeah. It doesn't cost me any more money.
Now it's funny because I used to, when I drove in my car, I would always put on a podcast, or I still do. That's probably my main thing to do, is listen to podcasts when I drive.
Right.
Now one of the things I'm doing is I'm pulling up. I like for voice, I like Grok and the language models. It's just a good one. I use all different models for different things, but Grok has a great voice model, and so I literally will turn on Grok and just start having conversations with an AI for like an hour and a half, and learning about something new, So it's really fascinating.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
But how'd you get started? So you were in this class, just kind of exploring your business major. By the way, UNT has a great business school.
They do.
Yeah, it's
fantastic. And people don't know about it, but it's fantastic.
Right.
I'm going to try to spend more time up there and talking to those guys in entrepreneurship and stuff.
Nice.
So I left college, and it's funny, my first job was
Did you stay in business though?
Yeah, I did.
Okay.
I ended up with kind of a double major in industrial anthropology and business.
Okay.
Yeah, so
very cool.
I was the first person to graduate from the university with this industrial anthropology. What the hell was that? My mom was crying, man. She wanted me so much to go get an MBA, and I was like, not going to do that.
That's too funny.
But yeah, my first job is funny because I was at this place. It was like a recruiting firm or something, and I just first job I could get out of college. Right. And they made me take a Myers-Briggs test.
Okay.
So where they kind of profile you.
Sure.
And I remember taking the test, and they called me back like a week later and said, okay, you can come in now. And so I came in, and the guy sits across from me, and he says, well, I have some good news and bad news. So I'm thinking, that's a really bad way to start a conversation about a personality profile. And I said, well, give me the good news. He goes, well, you're really smart. I said, okay, well, good. And he said, but you're unemployable. I was like, what? I had no idea. And I was so depressed about that because he just said I'm too much of a, like I don't listen, take direction very well.
That's what every new grad wants to hear, by the way, that you finished college and you're unemployable. Right?
Yeah, exactly. So I was worried, but it was funny because over the next couple of years, I started realizing they're right.
Yeah.
I'm a really bad employee, and my wife calls me unemployable. She goes, that's why you have to start companies, because you're unemployable. This all didn't happen that fast. After that, I didn't get that job. I got a job at a software company, and I was just selling software. But I was going to work, and then I'd come home, and then I'd watch TV, and I'd go to bed, and go to work. I did this cycle, And I just looked at myself and said, this isn't the life I'm going to have. This is not the life I want to build, And so I quit my job.
Oh, gosh.
And my then fiance, now wife, and she's like, what the hell are you doing? And she was the big breadwinner back then. She worked for IBM and had this couple $100,000 salary, and I was the fumbling guy, trying to figure out my life. And so I started traveling all over Texas and just interviewing entrepreneurs.
Oh.
And I did it, and I just walk up. Sometimes I'd cold call. Like I'd walk into a company, so I just read about you. Can I talk to you? I want to be an entrepreneur.
That is hilarious.
And no one said no. It's so cool how people, like, if you're really earnest about what you want, they'll help you. They'll help you.
And what did you do? Did you record the interviews, or you just walked in and had a conversation?
Walked in, had conversations, and I had dozens of those. Not dozens, maybe a couple dozen.
Sure.
And I came back, and I decided I'm going to be an entrepreneur.
Okay.
And so I started my first business, and one thing led to another. But boy, it was it's been a fun ride. I think I couldn't have picked a better path than for me, because I probably have an unhealthy relationship with risk.
Sure.
I'm actually happier when I'm risking, and so that's probably not a good thing. But
you're not a Vegas guy, are you? No,
I'll go to Vegas. I don't gamble as much as I'll play some blackjack, but that's about it. I love to go to Vegas, though. Yeah.
Now, how did you come up with the concept for your first company then?
So my partner and I, it's funny, we decided we were going to start a business, and it happened because I was consulting with KPMG.
Okay.
And I was building, back then it was just lexicons, right? So what you see now automatically with language models and things like that, back then you need lexicons and synonym lists and things like that, right? And I was building all of those for their global knowledge management system, and just had this idea about how to automate that. And so that was machine learning, and so we came up with this machine learning algorithm that could start to learn a little bit, and if you give it the right information, it could learn. And I'll never forget the first time it kind of worked. This search kind of worked, and we looked at each other and went, whoa, it worked. Cool. And it was only with a couple hundred documents, So
what year was this?
Oh my gosh. I don't know. That's early 2000s. Probably.
Okay.
Yeah. And but over time, it got more and more scalable. We just kept into it. And so that's where I started to realize how important math is. Like,
right.
I suck at math.
Exactly.
I suck at math, but we had great mathematicians, and starting to realize that because when you talk about AI now, one of the things we like to talk about is the primitives. Like, what are the core things that you use to progress AI? And the ultimate primitive is math.
It is.
It is. And so there's some very crazy things happening with that right now with AI, but not to get too far ahead of us. But at that point, just kind of realize this is something. Being able to build algorithms that can start to help people work their way through information and find things they couldn't have found without it. And so,
it's funny. I look at, I think it was Big Blue back in the old days.
Oh yeah.
And that was initially the early version of kind of the same concept. It's just the speed at which those systems iterate now at creating solutions is so much faster.
Yeah, I think the real change happened with reinforcement learning, because even Big Blue back then, there's only 400,000 possible moves in chess, and so you could still program it in, right? Same with tic-tac-toe and all those things with AI. It was all still very, very programmed into the results were programmed,
Right.
But like with when Google came out with AlphaGo, so the game of Go, I don't know how you're familiar are with it, but the 13 by 13 board, there's more potential moves than there are atoms in the universe.
Okay.
So you can't pre-program it.
Right.
And so, with AlphaGo, the real in reinforcement learning, the breakthrough was they taught the system how to play itself in a game, a lot faster than it could do in the physical world, but thousands of times, and it learned the game by playing the game.
Right.
And so it became better than the best Go player in the world in a matter of weeks.
Wow.
And after 1,500 years of Go playing. And so, so now that's when I think we started to see that things are going to be different now.
Sure.
Yeah.
So how did you ramp up that first business?
Oh man, it's the hard way, So the company was called Ingenium, and we built a semantic search engine. Okay. And so
so real quick on KPMG, you created that tool, and did that spin off into Ingenium, or you just decided to,
decided,
Makes
hey, we're
sense.
doing something special here. Let's turn it into a business.
Okay.
And so, but yeah, it's we did it the hard way. So we started kind of getting into. It's funny, the first market was HR. And so we built a system that could read resumes and understand what they're about and start to match. Like, you could put a resume in or a job description in the system and say, find more like this.
Interesting.
And it would read it, understand what it's about, and start to connect you with candidates, even if the documents had different words.
Sure.
So it was a true conceptual search engine. It didn't just search keywords. It searched for the meaning of words.
Right.
And so it was very successful. We sold that company, and that was my first exit.
Why was Marsh McLennan interested in that company, especially given the HR component to it?
Yeah, that's part of it, and I think they could also see the bigger picture of it. That we made it with resumes and things like that. But any document that you had, you could literally take that document, the system could learn it and find other things that are related. So it was a core technology, which was really attractive to them. So
it's funny. And some years ago, I lived in Southern California, and the IoT was kind of the big thing, the Internet of Things. Yeah. And then I moved to a data analysis company that worked with companies like Bloomberg, and we crunched their data. But we were mostly focused on processing their accounts payables and the like. And so and trying to get the system to read it and put it in the right bucket and make sure that we could bill and pay properly. There's a lot of work to it. So it sounds like you're doing something similar with that document reading process.
Except it was all automated. So what was made us unique back then, it's kind of funny because what ChatGPT is doing today with transformers, we were conceptually doing the same thing with LSA back then. You could feed the system, when we got to Pure Discovery, the next company, we got to where you could feed the system hundreds of millions of documents, and it can start to connect the concepts and thoughts and ideas and all the documents together. Right. Which is really kind of what's happening in ChatGPT. It's not the same thing, but it's the same idea that without human intervention, without lexicons or synonym lists or thesaurus or anything like that, we were just doing it. Like, our system would automatically start to understand the relationships between words in the context. And so, that of course is the same kind of thing. So now you had this system that could learn from information dynamically with no human intervention. What do you want to do with it? Right. So we initially, this is when we went to Pure Discovery, or turned into BrainSpace. Right. Gosh, some of the first clients, it's funny because it was e-discovery. Okay. So it was like, law.
Right.
Which it's funny how you get into these things, right? I always tell young entrepreneurs, like, don't create a 3-year plan.
Right.
Because if you hit that 3-year plan, it means you weren't paying attention. You should have learned something along the way.
Exactly.
Or your curiosity should have done something that would have changed that place. Right. If you hit that goal after 3 years, you did something wrong.
Right.
And it's kind of counterintuitive thinking, but that's kind of what's happened in all my career. Like, I had no desire to go into e-discovery, but we ended up in that because the technology we built had crazy value there.
Nice.
You could feed it millions and millions of documents, case documents. You could start to connect the concepts and thoughts and ideas together, and it could profile people by the words that they're used most commonly with. And so, and you could take a hot email and put it in as a query and say, find more like this, and it'll match with other things, even if they don't have different words. And it was magical, right?
I hope people are watching this on video just to see. You're getting really excited. It's like taking a kid into a candy store. This is
fun.
This is great.
I am lucky in that sense. This is fun. Like I was I was at Texas Tech yesterday. I tried to speak to classes on entrepreneurs and also AI and stuff like that. Okay. And I was telling them yesterday that I've been led by curiosity everywhere, and my life just is kind of unfolding. Right. I don't have this master plan. Like, I kind of create in the present and see what happens. Right. If you create greatness now, where does it lead you? And that's kind of everything I'm doing. I'm just trying to have the best time and meet the best people. And
some years ago, I said this to someone, being a tinkerer, whether you're a mechanic tinkerer or a technologist tinkerer, but there's just so much value in tinkering with something just to see 100%. What happens and living, as you said, in the moment and trying to figure
100%.
it out. Yeah.
And I'm blessed to, people in my companies are way smarter than I am. I work with just literally geniuses, and I'm inspired by them, and even my partner, Chris and Ross, those two guys, Chris, I've been working with him for this our third company together. And so nice. It's, he's more of the, like for the twins, in the last company with the twins at the top, I'm the wave your hands and get people excited and vision and things like that. Right. And Chris is like, man, we're going to make this work, and here's how we're going to do it. Like, he's the get dirty guy, Right. And together it's a really nice combination. That's amazing. And Ross is an incredible visionary for us. And so,
when did you know that Ingenium would be a good business, not just a good concept, but a good business that would be profitable and would grow, and that you could sell it? Like, what did that day look like?
So I never start a business trying to sell it. Right. Like, I never do that. Like, my thing is, I think if you create enough value in the present, then your exit will show up. Right. And so I do see young entrepreneurs making that mistake. Like, they're building to exit. Right. And I think you're building a different company. Agreed. Like, I think you have to fall in love with the problem. Yes. Like, don't fall in love with your solution. Fall in love with the problem. Right. Like, literally fall in love with the problem. Understand it better than anybody. And then use what you know about technology, deep tech, or AI in our case, to see if you can find novel ways to solve problems that nobody else is thinking about doing it. And could it be massively more effective because of the way you're doing it? The combination of the technology plus the business model. Right. I call it a market of one. Can you create a market of one? Right. Are you so unique in what you're building and how you're delivering it that you really don't have a lot of competitors? Sure. And so, anyway. Yeah, and so you thought, though, so you grew it, and then I guess it just sort of evolved that this was a valuable company and that someone would need to purchase. Yeah, I think probably the biggest inflection point in Ingenium was, I'll tell you the moment. I remember it like clear as day. Right. At home, and I'm watching CNN. Right. And this thing comes on the Pentagon, and Ingenium goes across the screen. Oh, wow. Like, our name of our company went on the screen. And you didn't know it was going to come up? Oh, I knew. Okay. But I didn't know it was going to be like that. I thought it was going to be one of these little side things, And then, and by the way, Ingenium. No, this is like, our name was like this big and letters across the TV. And I was like, and it went on. I saw it 15 times that day, because CNN, right? They just repeat everything every 30 minutes. And so I think that's the moment. Like, when I saw that, I was like, wow, we're in a different game now. Because we started working with the military, and so, man, anyway. Now to diverge a little bit, one of the companies that I think is so cool that I heard about the other day, Anduril. Oh, yeah. Yeah, and what they're doing, you mentioned the government, and they're using AI to build fighter planes and autonomous flying. Yeah. It's just so cool. Talk about a company that's founded by a curious person. Right. Palmer. That guy is the ultimate curiosity machine.
Right.
Like he's always just fascinated by doing cool stuff, and so. Yeah, I think the world of that company. I think it's fun to watch a guy like him kind of take a blank sheet of paper and turn it into this multi-billion-dollar thing, right? And they're focused more like on weapon systems, and he's the one that kind of made it cool to think about that again. Like for a long time, we had kind of this thing like, technology companies shouldn't work with the military, and,
right?
And I think he kind of made it cool again to say, hey, if we want to protect our country, we have to do this. And I think that was a good thing.
And he won some really large contracts that are only reserved for those big defense companies that have been around for decades, hundreds of years.
Yeah. Well, he changed the game. He and Palantir, right? So Palantir came before that with Peter Thiel and those guys. Andrew came after that, but they kind of have created this new breed.
Right.
And we're falling into that as well. They got kind of a breed. Yeah. We're building our platform is actually a dual use technology, so it's the same platform serves the public and the private sector. Sure. And so, so we're in that game. We're playing a very, very specific part of the game. We're into physical AI, which I think all those each of those companies has a play in it, but they're not doing what we do.
That's cool. So let's lead into worlds. But you're right that at Palantir, I had a chance to meet their head of defense, former congressional member, and I know Joe Lonsdale is considered a co-founder in there. But no, really neat. Both of those organizations are just fun. Yeah. Right. And so, how did your transition happen to Worlds?
Yeah.
And you're right. Real quick, what you mentioned earlier, you're living it. A lot of people say things and they say one thing and then live something different. But I think the company that you created in Worlds is different now than it was when you first created it.
100%.
So walk us through what
I'll tell you a funny story about that. So Chris Rohde, my partner, one of his rules is like when you get the yes from someone, stop talking and get out, right?
That's
his number one rule, right? And so we're sitting here with our potential lead investor for Worlds, and we already sold the last company, and so we had a good reputation, and all we had was a PowerPoint and a dream. We didn't have any technology. We were going out to raise $10 million with a PowerPoint.
Oh gosh,
we did it. But it's funny. So we were talking to Align Capital. Lisa Harris, and it looks like she looks at us and says, "Guys, you got the deal." So this is where Chris says, "Shut up and get out." Right. And of course, I speak up. I say, "Lisa, I'm going to make you 2 promises," and he's like kicking me on the table. Shut up! And I said, "First is we're going to be successful. This company will be successful. I promise you that. And the second thing I'll promise you is what we end up doing won't be what we told you today."
Did he kick you even harder than he's like, what? Dave?
But it goes back to what I said earlier. It's just if you pay attention, so be led by your curiosity and the problem, right? And have a true desire to solve that problem. It'll take you in amazing places.
That's cool. I'd love to have you tell us what Worlds started as and where you are today. But before that, I remember reading a discussion that you had about one of your investments, and you had someone, I guess you were meeting with them privately, and you had a discussion around your concept, but I forget which company it was. And without any information, details about the company, they believed in you. And my understanding is that they wrote a $250,000 check for you on the spot at that point. And that is something special that I think other entrepreneurs should understand, like building that trust with someone.
I'll tell you what that was. So,
podcasts are so popular, even monkeys are doing it.
75% of Americans listen to podcasts monthly. That's 210 million people in the United States alone. And yes, podcasts are profitable. Joe Rogan is making $30 million per year. Your content, your knowledge is worth sharing. Don't just dream it, do it. Visit andycostafilms.com/podcast and turn your content into leads.
In 2008, there was the big downturn.
Right.
And in 2010, right there, and all my friends' companies, startups were dying. They were going under. And one of our investors was Dick Jacoby, who was we were introduced by Amir Ecker, guy up at Align at Capital.
Right.
And he saw that we were going down. Dick did. Yeah. And I sat with him and he said, what do you need to get going? And I said, well, I think it's $250,000. And he literally wrote us a check for $250,000.
Incredible.
And, and I told that story at the exit dinner. We all had dinner up in Philadelphia, and I told that story because it was just amazing. And he didn't want, blood.
Right.
He just said, "Go."
Yes.
Make it work. So the world needs more people like that.
I agree.
And I try to take that, that kind of attitude when I help startups too. It's just like, not writing $250,000 checks, right. But it's like just trying to help them, do the things that they don't think they can do.
Right. Right.
And survive the times that they don't think they can survive.
And you're right. Finding a good person like that, like you mentioned, he didn't ask for these. He didn't provide all these restrictions or extra covenants or want, and he didn't want a lot from it. He just he wanted you to survive.
Yep, that's right.
And that was it. And so that's really cool.
Yeah, relationships matter. Another lesson for startups is don't chase money.
Right.
So when I get investors, we really try to choose investors that understand what we want to do and want to get behind us and bring it to the world. Because we're never doing something, simple.
Right.
I always tell people like when we build stuff, it's something that's never been built before. And so we're going to fail a lot. Like we're going to fall on our face every day, like every day, and so if we are a company that thinks about failure all the time, we're going to be really depressed.
Right.
So we need to have a culture of people that just kind of like we always say recast failure is iteration. Like there's no more failure anymore. It's just what happens. What do you choose to do next?
Right.
That's it. No failure.
Now, we'll come back to worlds, but you mentioned this that I think is just something that how do you convince people of something that hasn't occurred? So you're called a futurist. Like you mentioned the PowerPoint. That is a really hard thing to do, to convince someone of an idea when you have nothing to really demonstrate what that idea could look like. But that's what makes certain technologies and innovations great, is you can't see it. No one can, but someone has the ability to support it, and they kind of understand the concept, and then they say go.
We call it a talking dog.
Yeah.
You build a talking dog.
Right.
Like when you bring a talking dog into a room, they don't say, is the grammar correct?
Right.
They're like, oh my God, it's a talking dog, right? So when we come up with an idea, we actually build an MVP, like a minimum viable product. We build a version of it.
Yes.
That's very simple. That works. And now you use products like Figma,
right?
Where you can literally mock up a product like it's just a real product, but it's not.
Right.
And you give that Figma product to somebody, let them punch buttons, and you ask them, you watch how they behave when they use it, and there was a frustration ever in their face. And it's not about doing market research anymore. That is so dead.
Agreed.
Where 87% of people said they'd buy it, and none of them did. Right. No, this is like you put the product in people's hands, and then you ask them questions like, "Is there anything missing?
Right.
What would need to be in there for you to buy this?" And it's a very different thing, and that's what we do. So we create the talking dog, and then get people interested, and start to iterate on that. So we'll take the feedback from that, and then it's this process of build, measure, learn, build, measure, learn, build, measure, learn, just over and over and over again until you reach your initial version of greatness.
Right. That's amazing.
Yeah.
So what is Worlds? How are you changing the world through Worlds?
So we sold the last company, and again, it was still back office AI. When I say back office AI, it's on your screen. Right. And even like ChatGPT and stuff, I call it back office AI. So we had this thought, like, why isn't AI working well in the real world? And so we looked at, computer vision and things like that, and it was really broken. Yes. I mean, computer vision, you had these models that were static, but the world is dynamic. So as soon as you built the models, they were outdated, and all these problems, Yeah. And we looked at that and thought, why don't we jump into that? That's a hard problem, right? And so the idea was the mantra we created that really set the course for the business was, what if we could create machines that could see and sense the world like people do, but at a scale that's not humanly possible? And that became the mantra.
Interesting.
And we built it, and it got scope creep and got bigger. I think when we first started, we were thinking it was going to be more around computer vision, and we were just going to be the next evolution of computer vision. And now what it's turned into is an end-to-end platform for physical AI.
Oh, wow.
So we have created as far as I know, the only platform that enables you to train AIs, and I'll tell you about that in a second. We made a huge innovation there. Put the AIs in practice, so connecting them to the existing cameras and sensors of the company, turning the real world into a live data stream.
Wow.
And then building applications and agents on top of that data to solve real world problems.
Sure.
Does all three of those things.
Okay.
One of the biggest innovations was Worlds NQ, our training system. So when we walked into this market, the way people are still training AIs, like Scale.com turned into a multi-billion-dollar business by paying hundreds of thousands of people around the world to draw boxes. So the way you teach an AI, for those people that don't know, is like you get a video and go frame by frame, and here's a person, I draw a box around it. Here's a cup, I draw a box around it. Here's a microphone. Here's a GoPro.
Right.
And you teach it just gradually, like very, it's an evolution, but a slow evolution. It took months to train one AI.
Wow.
And we decided, hey, what if we could actually disrupt that? And we did. We flipped the entire market. So with our training, what it turned out being is it's not a top-down manual human-in-the-loop process anymore. It's a bottoms-up, fully automated AI system. You turn on your cameras, and World starts to index everything it sees automatically. Wow. No human intervention. And then it gives you some very interesting search and clustering tools for you to then train it on the things that are important to you. So if I'm in a warehouse, it has to understand that there's different colors of vests, and one's a manager and one's this. So I'll say, hey, find all the people with green vests. And it goes through hundreds of hours of video, finds all the people in green vests and pops them up, and you say, manager. Got it. Okay. In 2 seconds, you just taught the AI what a manager is. And then you do the same thing for forklifts and pallets and all the things in a warehouse, right? And so you can, but it takes literally minutes to train hours probably to train an environment where other systems are taking weeks and months.
Okay.
And so we're very, very fast. But the promise of Worlds is we can turn your world into a live data stream and give you the ability to create applications and agents that can solve any of the critical problems you're having every day.
Okay. Like, what's a good example of a company or industry where they're seeing the impact now? Like, how are they using it into their everyday operations?
Sure. Several of them. One of our favorites is Metallus. It used to be Timken Steel. They're one of the largest steel companies in the U.S. Right. And, if you've ever been in a steel plant, they're incredibly dangerous, because they're dealing with big stuff and hot stuff. And so Metallus, they're especially concerned about safety, and they really took a leading role. Okay. And we just jumped in with them and said, let's figure it out. And so there's lots of things that we do. So one of the things is like, if you have they have these large cauldrons, that have molten steel coming in. Yeah. And over time, the steel cools and the bottom moves up. Yeah. And then if they pour more stuff in the top, it sprays out.
Right.
And so we basically used a thermal camera that could see through the cauldron and see the shape of the steel. And we can tell them when it's getting too high, and they can stop and restart the process.
Sure.
And then also just making sure people aren't in the wrong place at the wrong time. So you're grabbing big things like steel pipes and moving them, and you don't want to drop them on anybody. And so it's like we built one of the things that we do in our system is we give people, we like to call it like an API for the physical world. Like if I could take a section of the world, this place where they're storing pipes, and program that section. Like if there's a person in here, I don't want anyone dropping pipes in here.
Right.
So it's red.
Okay.
And then if that person leaves, it turns green. So now the guy's moving the pipe sees it's green. I can move something in there.
Interesting.
Very simple thing, but very powerful. So that's a health and safety kind of thing. But then we're working with large energy companies on leak detection, where we can find leaks at the first tablespoon instead of waiting for it to turn into a lake. Like we built technology where we can do background subtraction, which moves everything from an image that doesn't move, but only shows you what moves. And guess what moves? The leak.
Interesting.
So all you see in the image is the leak.
Dripping.
Yeah, and so you can see a leak at the first tablespoon.
Interesting.
And so leak detection. So it just goes on and on and on. There's everybody has a different use case. We're working with Leonard Holmes, and a very cool project with drones and helping to reinvent the construction process.
Okay. Yeah, that's pretty neat. I wonder. So I spent my early career in engineering at a manufacturing plant company called Canon. We studied just-in-time inventory management. We were Kaizen focused, and it seems like that I built a semi-clean room back in the day. And it seems like the technology would have been good. We were very focused on safety. But I can imagine a practical application in an environment like that. I don't know if you're working with ports, but it seems like the ports, because they're moving so many containers, and the safety is a huge issue. You have these huge machines that are taking it off these ships.
Yeah, we're just starting.
Safety, you are. Okay. That sounds like a good application.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And we see new ones every day.
Right.
We're too small to do them all. So we have a wonderful gentleman, Garrett Long, in our company who's building our channel program.
Right.
And so we're working with people like Accenture and UI and Slalom, to take our technology into new environments. So
So what's the future of AI? Where do you know it's fascinating. I run into people that are in it and they're excited about it, and then you run into other business leaders that are running pretty reasonable businesses and they are terrified of it.
Yeah.
And then you have the people in the middle that are employees, and they're mixed. Right. Some believe that it'll take their job. Others are not sure what to make of it and that it's going to take over the world, and we'll have walking robots running things. But where do you see it going, AI and its impact on the world?
Yeah. I think all of the scary stuff that people talk about could happen, but my kind of view on it is it's going to take longer for that to happen than they think. So I think we're in the middle of a transformative revolution that's maybe only akin to the Industrial Revolution, but I think this is going to be bigger than that. You know, back then the Industrial Revolution took over 100 years, 120 years to occur. Right. This is going to happen in a couple of decades. Yeah. You know, and so the rate of change is probably the hardest part for us, is that we've had change before, we've had big change before, but we've never had it happen this fast.
Exactly.
The other thing is, this is not a physical revolution like the Industrial Revolution. This is a cognitive revolution. And so machines are starting to learn, and they're even starting to learn how to learn. Right. And that's happening now. We call it recursive self-improvement. Right. But if an AI can understand what it doesn't know and then take the actions it needs to take to learn those things, and that process can happen over and over and over and over again very fast, and then that's a digital, non-biological intelligence that can be replicated 1 million times. You start to see this is a different world, right? So I do think it's going to change. I spend some of my time talking to universities, you know, and even K through 12 kind of stuff. We're trying to get. We're going to have a Conmigo, the Khan Academy AI, in 4 schools in Dallas next year. Okay, so working with Dwayne Dankis here in the city. So I think, you know, we've got to start thinking about this, because it's going to change. The universities are not skating to the puck right now. Right. Some are better than others. I'm talking to a lot of the ones that are better. But we have to start to. It's a whole new set of skills. I was calling them meta skills. You know, I couldn't think of a better name. But when you think about the big thing that AI is bringing, is this is not a tool anymore. Right. For all of our lives, no matter how old you are, you always use tools, and technology was a tool. Right. AI is not a tool anymore. You have to think of it more like a partner, you know? And so, and as we have agentic AI settle in, and we're able to now, I can have my agents do things for me. Right. I will have employees. You will have employees. We'll all have employees. Right. And it might be 2 to 5 agents in the short term, but I don't think it's long before we have a future where I might have 100 agents working for me. That's interesting. Doing lots of different things. You know, so,
agents.
Absolutely. Yeah. Everybody will have their personal agentic workforce, you know? And so you think about, what does that make a company? A workforce of workforces. Right. It's kind of mind-boggling, right? So, and I think the protection, I think, that people need to understand, though, is like, you know, you shouldn't be scared of that abundance, because abundance creates the need for more jobs. And that's, I hope, is the saving grace of this. Right. Will some jobs go away? Yes, they will. If you're doing something that's very repetitive, you know, and you do it all over and over and over again every day, it's probably going to be automated. Right. So you should start thinking about something else. In schools, we still need people that really deeply understand the context of what they're trying to do, because you're going to be guiding AIs. Correct. You can't just go to ChatGPT and ask it for stuff all the time and let it guide you. No, you have to know what you're doing. You have to be a domain expert. And that's what I think colleges need to kind of think about, but then teach meta skills. Like a meta skill that here's one of the things that's disappointing. When I go to schools, I see the only place they're teaching about AI is in engineering. It's the only place. Right. There should be AI courses in every discipline. Agreed. Every discipline across a college. And so I'm trying to change that, you know, and helping them understand there are meta skills. Like, how do I work with agents? How do I build an orchestrator agent that can work with task agents? And how do I, you know, there's different things like that. How do I construct prompts that are not just it's not just prompt engineering, but context engineering. Right. So there's a whole new science there. And
what's interesting, I mentioned the engineering company that I worked at. Back then, this was in the early mid-90s, that technology was replacing a lot of those repetitive skills back then. What's interesting today, as I look at it, is that technology still has an impact on those repetitive skills. But what's unique about AI, from my perspective, I'm not the AI guru, is that it's replacing a lot of those thought positions now, because it's thinking for. I had an interesting conversation with the CEO of a marketing agency recently, and I asked her, how's the business coming? And she said something I found fascinating, because I just didn't think it was happening this fast. She said, Ronnie, there are a lot of marketing professionals, designers, that are in the marketing industry that are now they're struggling with their jobs, a lot of layoffs, because people are using AI to create a lot of the graphic design and that used to be held for marketing agencies. And I thought that is really interesting. It's replacing that set as well, not just the manual repetitive piece, but some of these other elements as well. And you're right, it should be more than just engineering because it's across the board that it's having an impact. Yeah.
Everything will touch AI. Right. AI will touch everything. It's an apex technology that will leave no stone unturned.
Yeah, I love it.
So, what I would say to that person, there will, in that case, you're going to be doing more with fewer people.
Correct.
For sure.
Right.
I can have something go generate 100 logos for me, but it doesn't know which the best one is.
Right. Right. So you have someone analysis.
Yeah, it doesn't know. Yeah. And it's not that simple, right? You want to have someone that generates logos and then they see that and go, on number 3, I want less of this, more of that. Right. On number 7, I want this. It's just, it makes them better because they're able to kind of multitask and get this job done of maybe what 10 people could do before, or 5 people one person can do it now. Right. But so, you got to start thinking about if you're one of those people, how can you be that one? How can you be that person that's being augmented by AI in such a way where you can become amplified and accelerated?
Right.
And that's
funny. I just went through that process. I was helping someone create some logos for a new operation they have, and it is. It's amazing how quickly they turn around 7 samples of logos for that organization. And then finding the right fit is the key.
Yeah, I'll tell you, I've done that kind of stuff. Like I use now when I generate my slides, I'm using Midjourney for all my images and stuff. Sure. And there are times when I give up.
Right.
You can't do it.
Right.
And so it's like, nope, I'm just going to go find that image somewhere. Right. This isn't working. So it's, I think we were, it's like anything, but I think with AI, this is amplified where it's overestimated in the short term, but it's underestimated in the long term.
Right.
I think that's true for AI.
Well, Dave, let's close by just talking about your business structure and operations, some of what your guiding principles are, because I think this could be helpful for a lot. You've incorporated a Swahili word into your framework. Tell me about that.
Yeah, so the technologists out there will know this word. It's Ubuntu, and Ubuntu was a type of Linux, still is. But Ubuntu is actually a Swahili word that loosely translated means "I am who I am because of who we are together," and that's the culture that we build. So I've got really big into startup culture, and my co-founders and partners have really gotten into it too. And so when we start a new company, like the reason so many people want to come from the last one to this one is because of culture.
Right.
Because we build an environment that gives people the potential to be the very, very best they could be. Like we're going to remove all the limitations. And by the way, you can't fail here. Yes. It's impossible.
Love it.
There is no failure here. We recast failure as iteration. And you just iterate until you reach awesome. There's no like something whose fault was it, all that stuff. We don't even have that language in our culture. And so, but yeah, I think some of the tenets of our culture, so that's one of them, is failure doesn't exist. You just come, it's all that matters is what happens and what you choose to do next, right? And so
don't lose your point there, but I had a conversation with someone that's involved in youth sports, and I saw an article about a coach that incorporated something similar in your plan. He coaches youth baseball. And he said when he removed the concept of me pulling the player from the game if they make a mistake, when he removed that premise, people excelled because they were not living in fear.
Yeah.
And it sounds like you've done the same.
Talk to them when they come on the sideline, say, hey, what could you have done?
Right.
Go do that. Yeah, no, absolutely. And so, some of the other ones are like, so if you don't have failure, then what do? Well, you iterate. Right. So iteration is more, it's actually a better reflection of the way the world works today. You think about it, like even gaming, right? You don't die.
Right.
You just spawn a new one, right? And so it's so this idea of iteration is really important. Iterate until you reach awesome, right? Or choose to stop. Sure. Notice I didn't say fail in there anywhere. Right. And some people say that's a small thing. It's not.
Right.
The language creates your world.
It does.
And if failure is a part of the language that happens inside your company, if negativity is part of your company, I love it when people challenge each other passionately.
Right.
I don't like it when one's negative.
Right.
That's where you cross the line. I want smart people challenging each other to be better.
Right.
That's the best environment, right? Sometimes that can get tenuous, right? But other things in our culture, like for me, it's stand for the greatness of people. So this is a big one for me. Like, I just kind of realized a long time ago that there's one thing that exists in every single person, and it's greatness, you know, but it needs to be summoned. It doesn't naturally surface.
Right.
So it takes a person watching someone and saying, you know, hey, go for it. No holds barred, go for it, you know, and just try something. When I sold the last company, I had one of the guys send me an email, and it was the funniest thing. He was an engineer, and he said, thanks for being batshit crazy. I got to do things here I never would have got to do anywhere else, because I just challenged them, right? The couple of things we also do is we play what we call impossible games.
Okay.
And so an impossible game is when you make the request, like, hey, I want to do this. Everyone goes, that's impossible.
Right.
That's perfect, right? The thing I told you about earlier, the World's NQ, the training technology, that was an impossible game.
Right.
We came into this market, and it was taking 60 days to train AIs, and we were taking 60 days. I looked at the guys, and I said, 7. Let's do it in 7. And they looked at us like, are you crazy? You know, perfect. Okay. And then we put a bonus on it, like make that happen 7 days. And what's crazy is it went from impossible to now it's happening in minutes or hours.
Wow.
And so what's great about impossible games too is that you don't have to win the game.
Right.
You're different for having played it.
Right.
And when you do win an impossible game, you can't go back to, I can't do it anymore.
Right. True.
You can't go back there. It's a story that doesn't exist in your life anymore.
Yeah.
And so I like impossible games because people are metabolically different when they emerge from them.
Nice.
So I want to do more of those. But yeah, so culture is just a huge thing for us, you know. Anyway.
Yeah, and that's great. I think a lot of people misunderstand what culture is. I had that conversation with someone some years ago, and I know we're nearing the end of our program, but it was a guy who was kind of, not that he was old, but he was older in his thought process. And he just didn't get it. And he came and he said, Ronnie, what is all this culture stuff?
Yeah.
What I found, though, is that people are more productive. Their outcomes are incredible. They're happier. You can see it in the results of the organization when you have that kind of culture that you just described. So,
that's right.
Yeah.
And I think it's been more of a challenge since COVID.
Sure.
Like when everyone was all in the same company, we're all together and stuff. Culture was easier. It's harder now,
right?
Because everyone's working remotely, and so it's definitely harder now.
It is,
and so we're working on that, trying to figure that out, you know. But yeah, I think it's the only thing that everybody creates together.
Yes,
it's culture.
Yes.
That's it.
Yes,
it's nothing else. And so let's create something great, you know. And when someone comes in the company, it's like you're going to go on that team. It's like, how can you lift up everybody in that team?
Right.
And they'll ask you the same question, you know. And just getting,
I love it.
Yeah. So I think it's a wonderful thing. It's one of the hidden things. I'll tell you what I hate.
What's that?
I walked into a company once and their culture was on the wall.
Right.
Like, we are this, we are that, we are this. And my partner, I won't say what company this was, but it wasn't in Texas. But we walked in there and had all the stuff on the wall. Right. And we walked in this meeting and the CEO was berating the CIO. And we're like, that's not what it said on the wall.
You know, it's funny. I've had that conversation so many times. Yeah. They put it on the wall. It's on their website. And you go in, inconsistent.
Yep.
Like they don't live it. Yeah.
It has to be, you know, and this is true for entrepreneurs, right? Everything exists through storytelling. And so I'm a storyteller. I tell story. And when I say stories, these aren't untrue things. it's the way you talk about the world and talk about what you're doing to investors, to employees, to the world, you know, how you talk about things. You're a storyteller. If there's one skill as an entrepreneur that everyone should learn, it's how to be an effective storyteller.
Yes.
And that's part of culture.
It is.
We when I studied anthropology, you know, one of the ways they carry on culture in cultures around the world is they tell stories about things, like the fantastic story about this guy who, yes, and we have those stories. They're funny, you know. Like one of them's, I know we're about to be done here, but this is funny. One of the stories we tell about never giving up, like we say, persistence is omnipotence. Right. That's in our culture. Right. Like just never stop. If you never stop, you'll win because everybody else stops.
Exactly.
We were at one of the largest legal content providers in the world, $4 billion company at the time. And we were at their sales conference, 1,500 people, 150 10 top tables. And we only had about 8 people in the company at the time. And so we were sitting at the main table with the main guy. And I'm another one of those moments where my partner's kicking me. I said, hey, Pete, does it make you worried that my company can't fit in one of these tables? You know? But the night before our presentation, the technology went down. Oh, wow. It didn't work. Right. We couldn't get one search to work. Oh. And then about 2 a.m, we got one search to work. So we go into this meeting tomorrow, and we do the one search, and he goes, isn't that great? And we're like, wow. And okay, we'll see you later. We start to walk off stage, and Pete says, hey, why don't we get one from the audience? I'm like, no. And so someone starts saying something, and Chris starts typing every word to try and make sure every possibility gets in there, right? And it nailed it.
Nice.
It nailed it, and we're just like, yes, but it's persistence, man. Like good things will happen if you never stop.
I love it.
Yeah. But the thing I made up was like pursuing perfection is like trying to teach a bear karate because it's really hard to do. And if you do it, it will kill you.
Dave, this has been a joy. I appreciate you coming on Business Decoded to share your insight and hopefully inspire other people. I know that you've touched the world, across the world, through your work and your expertise and your vision. And so I appreciate you joining us on the program.
Thanks for having me, Ron. It's been a real pleasure.
Thank you. Thanks for joining us on Business Decoded with Ronnie Spellman.
Thank you for listening to Business Decoded podcast with Ronnie Spellman. Please be sure to subscribe and share and stay tuned for more incredible Business Decoded episodes.